I concluded my first ever campaign in Dungeons & Dragons as the Dungeon Master. And I learned a lot about myself as a storyteller, and I learned a lot about the writing process in general. Now, I've played D&D many times before, but this was my first time doing a long-running campaign. And I realized I'm not really that into writing D&D campaigns. As much as I love the storytelling aspect of D&D, I like being able to control where my stories go. When you're doing a lot of world building, you obviously want your audience, whether it be readers or players, to experience that world. And having to sit idly by and watch people do the opposite of what you want to happen in the story is frustrating. I don't think that writing long D&D campaigns is for me. But that being said, I didn't just learn about my preferences in writing from D&D, I learned about the writing process itself. And I wanted to share some of those things that I learned with you so that you don't have to run a several week-long campaign to figure out these things. Let's dive right in. Number 1. Expect your audience to latch on to something insignificant. If you have been a part of the Shadow and Bone community, you know that this is the case for Dungeons & Dragons and novels. I mean, take a look at the first chapter of Six of Crows. We're introduced to this character whose only problems is the moon and his mustache. And somehow, that character, who, to my memory, is never seen again, has ended up becoming a really big part of the fandom. When you're playing something like D&D, you're gonna have things that come up where your players will latch onto them. It certainly happened to me. Sometimes it's locations that people get super suspicious of. Sometimes it's a character that you meant to be a one-off thing, and now they are a regular traveling member of the party because they love them so much, and you have to just improvise a bunch of details about their life and their backstory and who they are as a person because they keep asking questions that you don't have the answers to. The way you can apply this lesson to your writing practices is to make sure that you're always treating characters, locations, and events with the same amount of respect, no matter how important you know it is to your story. Even if you have a side character, make sure that you come up with at least a little bit of a backstory for who they are. It doesn't have to be complicated. Maybe you just know, oh, they grew up in this city, they inherited this place from their parents, and they've always wanted to run this store. Or maybe they resent having to run it. Just come up with something to make them more than just a basic NPC in your story. Make them complex, make them interesting, and then if your characters do latch onto them, you at least know a little bit about who they are, and they'll have more reason to enjoy them. Number 2, be ready to let things go. Now, when you're editing, you will have to let go of a lot of scenes that you really, really love. And a great way to deal with this is to do what I call a dump file, which is basically just a Word document or a text file filled with all the scenes that you really enjoy, but you had to cut out. And that way, if you do end up publishing your book either traditionally or through self-publishing, you will have these files of these scenes that can be sort of deleted scenes. I mean, think about it this way. If any of you were kids that had a lot of DVDs in the house, then you might remember the special features and deleted scenes sections of the DVDs. And I remember always watching these movies and then going and watching the deleted scenes after it was over. So you can do something similar with your books as well. It's a really great way to hold on to them while also being able to cut them out, because it is painful having to cut stuff out. And with D&D as well, you come up with this complex world, these amazing characters, and so many different paths that your players can go down, and they might not take them, meaning that big sections of the story may be completely axed. And if you're going in a traditional publishing route, a lot of times these scenes that you love will be axed because they're not doing anything for the actual story. So make sure that you are putting a lot of effort into the main storyline. And if you do have these side parts, make sure that they're somehow important if you really want to keep them in. They don't have to be so important that they're the pivotal turning moment of the plot, but make sure that they have some sort of connection there. And be aware that sometimes that still won't be enough and you'll have to let them go. So try not to get too attached. Number 3, it's okay not to fit a certain length for your story. One of the big stressors that I have when I'm writing novels is this the right length? Is it too short? Is it too long? Will it fit into the genre? And here's the thing, It doesn't matter. When I was DMing my campaign, I was following up 2 campaigns that had lasted for over a year each. And the majority of these really big Dungeons and Dragons campaigns end up being months, if not years long. But here's the thing, you are not tied to a specific length from your story. My story certainly didn't have the legs for that length, and that's fine. When it comes to writing novels, you will find all sorts of different rules and guidelines about this many words to this many words is what a sci-fi novel is. This many words is how long a romance novel is. But here's the thing, you don't need to necessarily know that, because if your novel is good, then it shouldn't matter the length. If you are able to get your entire story in a bit of a shorter length of time, then that's great. Perfect. But if you need a little bit more time to flesh things out, that's also great. People will enjoy that too. And I know that a lot of us have our hearts set on, oh, I would love to write a novel one day. But if you find that your length of your stories is more tied to short stories or novellas, that's okay too. You are not forced to follow the same formula that everyone else is following. Whatever works for you is what's best. So if you're like me and you stress about word counts, don't, because it doesn't matter. It's your own story, and as long as you are telling it in a way that feels the most effective, then why does it matter how long it is? Number 4, recognize that you are not in control of the story. Now, if you are in a traditional publishing sense, then this means that there are going to be a lot of editors, a lot of publishers, and producers that are going to want to have changes made to make it more publishable or to make it more appealing or to make it better. And generally that means that you don't have complete control over it. But even if you are self-publishing your book, you are still not in control of the story. I don't know if I'm the only one who's ever experienced this, but sometimes I'm writing and then my characters do something that I didn't expect and I didn't tell them to do. Sometimes these characters just take over, and if you get really in the zone and you're writing a scene out and then your character does something and you a moment later are like, whoa, I didn't know that was gonna happen, but that's really cool. That's good. That means that you are fully fleshing out this character. That means you are getting into the mindset of what this character would do, and that is amazing. But it also means you're slightly not in control. You've created this character. You've decided how their development is going to happen, and because of that, you're going to be surprised. And with D&D, you are very much not in control. You have a whole world that you have created and a big storyline, but your players are the ones who are going to decide which direction to take that, which is why I realize I don't really like it that much. Because at least with writing, you do have a little bit of control. You know where the story is going to end, and you have a plan out. But still, even then, you are still not fully in control. Even then, you are going to be surprised. And if you think about it, that can be a really beautiful thing. And number 5, the 5th thing I learned about writing from my time DMing a Dungeons & Dragons campaign is make sure whatever you are writing, you are passionate about. When I first started my campaign, I was really excited about the story. It was really unique. It was more of a sci-fi than a fantasy storyline, even though there was some magic weaved in. But as it went on, I realized that I didn't really love it as much as I thought I was going to. The more we played and the more the things didn't go the way I had imagined them in my head, the more I sort of lost steam on it. And the thing is that when it comes to writing, it will show. Whether it is a Dungeons & Dragons campaign or a novel, if you lose your passion for something, people are going to be able to tell. I mean, think about it this way. You've lost your passion, so you're just trying to get this out there. It's going to suffer for it. Your work is going to suffer for it. Your audience is going to suffer for it. And you're gonna suffer for it. So it's okay to take breaks on things, unless you have a contract, but in that case, you should definitely talk to someone who is supervising your work to make them understand what is happening and maybe try writing a different scene. Maybe try figure out where the lack of passion is stemming from and try to fix that. But if you don't have a contract, you don't have expectations, and you are just writing for fun, it's okay to switch. I have multiple works in progress on the go in multiple different genres. I've got a Christmas romance going on. I've got a fantasy book going on. I've got so much happening that I can afford to switch it up if I feel that I've lost my passion for one project, and that is a really, really good thing to do. And also, it's okay to take a break if you have writer's block. Try and get some inspiration somewhere else. But if you are tied to a contract, or maybe you're DMing a campaign and you've lost passion for it, try and wrap it up. If you know exactly what you want to do and you know people are expecting you to give them something, try and do your best to give them what you can, but try to finish it soon. Because if you aren't feeling joy in what you're doing, everyone involved is going to suffer for it. All right, everyone, so that is the 5 things that I learned about writing from DMing a Dungeons & Dragons campaign. I hope you found this interesting, and I hope that you find it helpful. I know that this experience, as much as it's taught me that I am not interested in writing D&D campaigns, it's also taught me a lot of really useful things that I will be applying to my own writing practices. I hope you enjoyed, and let me know, have any of you written D&D campaigns or tried to run them, and did you enjoy that aspect of kind of letting the players take control? Because I certainly didn't. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that it will be helpful for you. But that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see all of you lovely people in the next video. Bye!